met the Asus family hooligan, we have met the family hitman, we have met the CEO, and now we meet the family supermodel. Introducing the Asus ROG Zephyrus G16 2024. And no, this is not to be confused with the Strix G16. They're both very different looking laptops. They're just absolutely stunning to hold and crazy slim at just 0.59 inches. Well, it gets as thick as 0.65 inches towards the rear, but wow, this is the thinnest gaming laptop I have ever used. And it is light too at just 1.8 kilograms. Alienware's slimmest gaming laptop, the one that you see back there, the X16, weighs at 2.6 kilograms and it's even 0.73 inches thick. This then is the new Blade. I mean, why the hell not? It has a slash on it already. It is just so cool. Razer should just call up Asus and just say, please just take our trademark already, just have it. The thinnest Blade right now is 0.66 inches, and that also is the Blade 14, not even the 16-inch one. The Blade 16 is 0.87 inches. This supermodel has stepped away from the ROG family's 90s gamer design language and wants to be taken seriously, wants to make an impact on the world and not just do swimsuit modeling. So a flying star for the G16 when it comes to the looks. But is this just a pretty face, or does it actually have the talent to woo fellow gamers and creators? Well, let's find out. Also, I have to say this, it will really mean a lot if you guys could also subscribe to my channel if you're into tech and gaming, and do like my video if you find the content to be useful. Alright, let's begin. It's kind of funny, it feels like Asus has this strange job rotation program, because first it was the more creator-oriented brand ZenBook, which had a go at giving us a gaming laptop. This one right here, the Pro 16X, just fabulous. And now we have the gamer-oriented brand ROG that has had a go at giving us a creator-oriented laptop. It also has the NVIDIA Studio sticker right here to show for it. And you know what? I've been really liking the results both ways. The variant that I have here comes with the new Intel Ultra 9 processor, the 185H, 32 gigabytes of LPDDR5X RAM that is obviously soldered on, with a speed of close to 7500 mega transfers per second, a single terabyte Gen 4 SSD, and also an additional PCIe Gen 4 slot for a secondary hard drive. Big win for the G16 there again, considering how thin this is. And the more humble RTX 4060 with 8 gigabytes of VRAM. But depending on your region, you can get the G16 with up to an RTX 4090, though it will not be a fully powered one. In a size and format like this, I'd say that a 4060 or 4070 would be the sweet spot. And yes, the video thumbnail did say that it has 2 GPUs in here. That may have been a bit of an overreach, but it is not clickbait. It has to do with that new Intel Ultra CPU in here, and I'll talk about that in a bit. So all of this retails at 2,600 Canadian dollars, and that is a price a bit too steep for this sort of hardware, because you can get performance similar to this for even $1,000 less, but it would just not be as nice as this, because every little thing in here is at least twice as good as any other budget option out there. There is certainly a premium that has to be paid for high performance in a thin package like this. It also sports an aluminium unibody like the Razer Blade or the MacBook Pro, and it feels solid. It has no flex in this. It is so good. I personally don't get the obsession with a laptop being built so tough. In any case, these things aren't built to sustain random falls off your desk. It doesn't happen, at least not to me. But it just means that this will stand the test of time. And I like this sort of light gray finish. It's different from the usual sort of drab, dark, or like black finishes. Although I do wish I got the platinum white version. That would have looked absolutely gorgeous, but this was the only one that was available for now. This LED anointed slash on the lid comes with about 28 mini LEDs across 7 addressable zones, and there are many themes that you can choose from. It's not like you can configure every LED specifically across the timeline to customize it exactly like you want, but the themes that are available within the Armoury Crate software are more than enough for you to come across something that you would like. The device also has status lights to show power, charging level, hard drive activity, but this has those status lights behind and under the screen, like right here. If you ever feel useless in life, just know that these status lights exist. It also has a balanced complement of ports. It's got two USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type A ports, one on each side, and it also has two Type C ports. The one on the left is Thunderbolt 4 and the one on the right is USB 3.2 Gen 2. Both of them support 100 watts of charging using a Type C cable. It also has HDMI 2.1 on the left, along with the headphone jack on the left as well, and that is good news for right-handed users because then the headphone cable doesn't interfere with your mouse. This time Asus has also introduced a proprietary charging plug, which kind of looks like a mini HDMI port, but they had to introduce one because the old barrel plug just wasn't thin enough for this. It has Bluetooth 5.3 and Wi-Fi 6E, and oh, the cherry on top, it has a UHS 2 SD card reader in here as well. So great for creators, especially for me, because I finally invested in a dedicated camera for my reviews, and for which I need to use an SD card, so that helps. By the way, I also have a review coming up on a very special device by a very corporate and a very business-oriented brand that has had a go at making a laptop that could work for gamers, so get subscribed for that. Also, if you're finding my content useful so far, do consider pressing that like button. So then a little bit more on that CPU. We've got the highest variant here in the Ultra series, the Ultra 9 185H. It's the first generation in Intel's Ultra lineup, and it is meant for the highest efficiency levels. That means a lower power draw, lesser heat generated, and on paper it would also mean that it's able to share more power with the GPU through dynamic boost, and that can be great for gaming. So this type of processor is ideal for the thin and light laptop, so just perfect for the G16. It has 6 performance cores that can boost up to 5.1 GHz, and then 8 efficiency cores that can boost up to 3.8 GHz. And now, in the Ultra series specifically, it has 2 low power efficiency cores that can boost up to 2.5 GHz. So a total of 16 cores and 22 threads. So those performance cores would have 2 threads each. Just for comparison though, the outgoing 3900H had 6 performance cores and 8 efficient cores, so just the 14 cores, but those performance cores could boost up to 5.4 GHz. Regardless, I think the Ultra series would be more than enough for the modern professional user on the go, and also great for the modern gamer, at least on paper. So what's the fuss about? The biggest benefit we should see from the Ultra series CPU is battery life. So to test this, I did my standard Top Gear playback test. So it is a 1080p stream running off YouTube with a few Office apps open on the side. Screen brightness turned down to about 50 to 60%, the volume also in the middle, the keyboard backlight turned off, the lighting for the slash on the lid also turned off, the screen refresh rate also brought down to 60 Hz, and using just integrated graphics. So then the ideal situation for you to get the most amount of battery life. Now with that, I got 4 hours and 40 minutes, and that is by far the best result I have ever gotten on a gaming laptop. Sure, the OLED panel in here would have also had a contribution to that result. However, just for comparison, the Lenovo Legion Slim 7i that I reviewed last year with the 3900H and a 4060 as well gave me about 3 hours and 20 minutes of battery life with the same test, and that device had 99 watt hours of battery, whereas this just has 90 watt hours. So the Ultra series seems to be definitely fulfilling a promise here. Usually 4060 laptops would come with at least a 230 watt charger, but this comes with a 200 watt charger, which is a bit portable and yeah, makes the overall package lighter as well, about 2.3 kilos I think in total. But does this mean that the 4060 in here might not be as effective? So let's just sort that out right now. My initial reaction to the performance out of this was that of a bit of disappointment. To be fair, a 4060 isn't groundbreaking from any angle. I guess I just expected a bit more performance from this year compared to last year, but that was a stupid expectation in the first place because it's not like NVIDIA introduced a TI variant in laptops this time around like they did with their 30 series. Should be seeing some benchmark results of the games up on screen right now, and they're pretty decent results. All these benchmarks were done at 2.5K or 1600p with the quality settings cranked to the full for each game, and upscaling like DLSS I turned off so we get the close to raw performance result. So as you can see here, compared to the Legion Slim 7i as a reference, the performance is just on point. It took me a few days to actually realize how misplaced my understanding was about what this device actually is. A proper gaming Ultrabook, and that is a very exclusive category in the laptop world. The 4060s that I tested last year were not in a chassis that is as thin as this. The Legion Slim 7i, for example, was 0.78 inches thick. So being able to maintain that performance with even less room for thermal management, I think, is a pretty big win. 4060 in here is also the fully powered one. It can go all the way up to 100 watts. As you can see from the logs that I pulled from a 3D Mark x Spy test. The more I used the G16, the more it just sort of grew on me. And as a result, I decided to actually get one for myself. Oh, also, I forgot to mention, make sure that you select the ultimate mode from the GPU mode options from within Asus's Armory Crate software, and also select turbo mode from the power options. This setting would obviously halve the amount of battery life that you get. There is also this optimized mode, which is the recommended setting by Asus, so the system will automatically switch off that RTX 4060 when you unplug it, and when you plug it back in, it will switch it right back on. Just will help with your battery life. I should also finally talk about that second GPU in here, sort of. Remember how earlier Intel introduced their first ever lineup for dedicated GPUs called ARC? Well, they've kind of packaged that into their Ultra CPU lineup as integrated graphics. The ARC graphics with the Ultra 9 CPU in here should be able to manage 1200p gaming at about medium settings and give you about 40 to 60 frames a second. That's not bad for integrated graphics. At least this would be the case for AA games rather than AAA games. For example, I tried Modern Warfare on this and I was getting locked 60 frames a second, but on the low setting, which felt a bit too sad for me, so I upped it to about medium settings, after which I was getting 50 frames a second. It gave me a decent gaming experience and I didn't mind it as much. Intel's standard UHD graphics, their previous integrated graphics option, you can still find those on the 14th gen Core i7, Core i9 CPUs still, but they would just give you less than half of that performance. So pretty much unplayable. So this is the first time acceptable gaming is possible with an Intel CPU, something that AMD was already kind of doing with their integrated 780M. But the question is, why would you choose Intel Arc over the RTX 4060? Well, the answer is again battery life. You can game on ARC graphics for about 2.5 hours to even 3 hours, whereas on the RTX 4060 it would be more like an hour and a half at best. Maybe you have a use case for that, maybe you don't, but it's there should you need it. Although I have to mention, some games did suffer quite a bit of stuttering, and some games even just failed to launch, like Forza Horizon 5. I think there's still quite a bit of work that Intel needs to do, but it's the step in the right direction. Let's talk thermals. The 4060 in here comes with just heat pipes. The 4080 and 4090 variants would get a vapor chamber. We have 3 fans in here, one for the CPU, one for the GPU, and one in the middle to dissipate heat that sort of builds up in between the device and push it out. Another thing to notice is that this device has no side vents. Usually it's very normal to see side vents on gaming laptops because that excess heat can be more efficiently dissipated when it has more room to exhaust. The G16 only vents heat out from the rear using a concealed exhaust, like that's kind of underneath the screen, which kind of adds to the strain of heat dissipation. This is similar to the heat management setup that we also get on the Razer Blade 15. And I owned the Razer Blade 15 for a while, and that device used to get plenty hot on the wrist areas right here and on the keyboard deck, almost making it uncomfortable. So does this suffer from the same problem? Well, I played plenty of games on the G16 and also tested quite a few games back to back, that benchmarking that I did earlier, and these wrist areas remained perfectly room temperature. Like, I barely felt any warmth sort of emanating from beneath. And the keyboard deck on the left and right remain perfectly cool because it is pulling in air from the top of the keyboard. The center gets only slightly warm. That center fan that I spoke about earlier, that third fan, does a good job at dissipating heat from the center as well. So overall, it's been a very good experience. Like, I'm very pleased with the thermal solution on this. Naturally, this area on top of the keyboard can get pretty hot, but there's no reason for you to be touching that area in the first place, so that's not a problem. From a technical standpoint, you should also be seeing a log that I pulled from a Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer game just to demonstrate real-world performance. And during that, the RTX 4060 was averaging about 80 watts of TGP. The max temperature on the GPU that I saw was about 87 degrees. Also, just a minor observation, the feet underneath this laptop are actually not that all. So this rests quite close to a desk and gives it even less room for it to breathe. So if you raise it even slightly from the rear, that should reduce the temperature on the RTX 4060 by at least 2 to 3 degrees. I have to admit that when you're doing a gaming marathon on this or running this at full capacity with the fans running on max, you can hear the coil whine a little bit. And yes, it might sound a little bit annoying, but personally, I wasn't too bothered about that because I understand that in a device that this thin, that is going to sort of happen. I compared the fan noise on this next to my Legion 7 Gen 7, which has a vapor chamber and it is much thicker. Yes, it sounds a little bit whooshier than the fan noise on this. I had to really lean in to listen to it. But either way, for both devices, there is fan noise that anyone in close proximity would still be able to hear. And that is going to be the case for any gaming laptop. If you're using the G16 for non-intensive tasks like browsing or some office work, the fan noise is honestly kind of to a minimum. And even right now, this has been sitting next to me. There are some applications running in the background on this, but I can't hear the fan right now. Now about the keyboard, it still has that typical ROG gamer-esque font, which I'm not a big fan of. They could have matured up the font a little bit like they've matured up the rest of the device, but then hey, how would you know that this device was made by the Republic of Gamers? I think that's the only giveaway right now, yeah. But I think I can definitely forgive ROG for this because this keyboard is just so nice to type on. It's a chiclet style layout, but the way the keystrokes bottom out, the clickiness of it, it just feels so damn good. I want to write books on this. I want to take notes on this, even if I have no reason to. It has a single zone RGB, which is honestly kind of a pity because for a device that is this expensive, they could have certainly had perky RGB in here. But again, it's positioned to creators. I just switched the color to white and kept it there. Power button also does not get lit up, as is the case for other ROG laptops. I love that there are dedicated volume keys in here and also a dedicated mic mute button. So I do wish that it had like a status light to show that it's on or it's off, like they've done with the Pro 16X. There's also a shortcut for you to switch between these power modes using the function F5 key. You get 3 keyboard backlit brightness options that you can switch down using function F2 and switch up using function F3, which I think is a bit of an overkill because you could have had just one key to cycle between the 3 brightness levels and instead had like a play pause button, because the sound on this beggars belief. The sound quality on this is amazing. I was listening to my playlist on this and I felt like I was listening to it for the first time. Yes, I know that sounds dramatic, but that's how good the speakers are on this. Like, they're close to MacBook Pro quality. No matter the genre, it is fun listening to music on this. The bass is well represented and the rest of the audio spectrum is as well. It's just a masterpiece, and it is loud enough to be even a Bluetooth speaker. And how is that even possible with a laptop that is this thin? It's got a little bit of everything. This here is the benchmark for speaker quality on gaming laptops. Let's also talk a little bit about the screen. OLEDs are becoming quite mainstream now, and I think for the better. Like, who does not like vivid colors and deep blacks? It makes the screen look almost edgeless, and you also benefit from power efficiency. I like the thin bezels on the screen, but it also has a glossy finish like most OLED panels do. But this has a kind of an anti-reflective coating on it, which is very good. Usually OLED screens can be very reflective and quite distracting. Burn-in issues are also now a thing of the past. You get a little more than 400 nits of brightness in standard mode and close to about 450 nits when you put this in HDR mode. Now yeah, a mini LED display can blow that brightness level out of the water, but as I've experienced in my previous review with the Legion 9i, which had a mini LED, it burned my eyeballs out. I don't need brightness of that level when I'm sitting this close to a screen. That just gave me a headache, and I think this is the perfect middle ground, at least for me. The screen also supports G-Sync, has a refresh rate of 240 Hz, and has a response time of just 0.3 milliseconds, so this is amazing for gamers. On the other hand, it also supports 100% sRGB, 99% DCI-P3, and also 99% Adobe RGB. So it's pretty good for creators as well. The screen does not go all the way back. I think it's limited to about 130 degrees, which is plenty for me. It might wobble around when you stop at an angle, but otherwise it's pretty sturdy when you move it back and forth. And yes, you can open it with one finger. Also about the webcam, it's a 1080p sensor. It's got a wide angle, it's very clear. The audio quality is also pretty decent. You have that AI noise cancelling feature with Asus as well. So it should give you a great conferencing experience when you need it. So to summarize, this laptop is, from my point of view, exquisite perfection in the realm of light and thin gaming. Like, it doesn't get better than this. And how cool is the Slash? Come on, guys, this, you gotta get behind this. It's such a nice device, well, which is why I obviously decided to keep it. Yeah, sure, it's expensive when you just take its performance into view, but when you break it down into its individual components, it more than makes up for that price. And you have to compare it with its actual competitor, the Razer Blade, which I don't think shouldn't be called a Blade anymore, maybe the Razer Blood. This is actually a few $100s cheaper than the Blade, so that's also a pretty good win. And I think that's it for me. I cannot express more enthusiasm and excitement about this anymore. Thank you all very much for watching. If you found my content to be useful and are into tech and gaming, do consider liking and subscribing. All right, thanks guys. See you next time.